thank you everyone for your patience. Sometimes technology works for us and sometimes it doesn't, but we appreciate you being here. So we have a really great and interesting topic today. So thank you for joining us. Words matter. Words change the tone, the frame, and behavior, and words can change practice. The old adage that you've heard before of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me isn't really true. Words can hurt, but they can also heal. So welcome to the Words Matter series, where we engage in open and authentic discussions about the impact of common terminology that's used in child serving systems with those who are directly affected by that use. Our goal is to illuminate how the terms we use can influence perceptions, influence our approach and our practice, as well as explore alternative language or approaches as a means of intentionally shifting how we view and interact with youth, families, and with each other. So today we're going to be exploring the use of preferred pronouns, which is perfect for Pride Month. Before we begin, as usual, we want you to take just a moment to consider what comes to mind when you think of the term preferred pronouns. We're going to put a link in the chat box, and if you could please respond to that Menti poll link with the thoughts and the perceptions that come to mind when you hear that or when someone asks you to use preferred pronouns. Joanne, if you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat. Okay, I see some people putting things in the chat box, which is awesome. If you're able to connect with the Menti, if you'll put it in there, because we'll get a word cloud that comes up. So as you can see on here, you want to go to menti.com. And there is a code that you put in, 5909754. Are people able to get to the Menti? Sharing some of the things that are in the chat box. Self-expression comes to mind, how you identify, what gender someone wants to be referred to, respect. I like that one. Several people have said respect, so that would definitely show you. Here we go. How the person wants to be addressed, addressing someone as they prefer. Tammy, thank you for sharing. Practice is new to me and still seems a bit strange. I have difficulty using non-traditional pronouns for others. I have heard that before, and as a parent myself, speaking with some of the older folks in my family regarding my young person, they're struggling with that because it just doesn't kind of click with the way they were raised, and it sounds weird to refer to an individual person as they, and it takes some practice. That's a showman. Respect is in the middle, and I love that. So the larger the font, the more someone has used that term, those that are responding to this. So respect is being used quite a bit. My pronouns on preference, understanding, compassion, love, seeing them. Oh my gosh, yes. And hearing them, honoring the person, self-expression. Some reluctance, okay. Relinquishing power, that's interesting. Affirming, all of those are great. Thank you. Continue to put those in there if you would like, or in the chat. We're going to go ahead and move forward. Again, I was really glad to see some of the terminology that's there. So let's talk about the use of preferred pronouns and how it impacts youth and families. Today, we are very lucky to have Ginger Webb and their young adult, Chia Webb Casares. Did I say it right, Chia?
Casares.
Casares. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. They're both from Austin, Texas. So thank you both for being here and for sharing your experiences and perspectives. We also have Chia's dog joining us. So we pop in and out. So the first thing is, the first question I have for you is going to be about how you define it, but preferred gender pronouns or personal gender pronouns refer to a set of pronouns that an individual wants others to use in order to reflect that person's gender identity. It's simply how an individual would like to be referred to when others speak to them or when you speak about them. And those in the LGBTQ plus community and experiencing emotional or behavioral health challenges themselves, or who are supporting a child or youth with these challenges, may define or refer or use this differently based on what their lived experience is in service systems and in public settings. So just starting off, Ginger, from a parent perspective, what does this term mean to you? The term preferred pronouns or using preferred pronouns?
Well, I think that the responses in the chat really reflected the way I feel about it too, which is it's really all about respect. And it doesn't really matter whether I understand it or not. I think understanding comes with time, but it doesn't matter if I understand or not. It's really about respecting the people that whatever anybody chooses as their pronouns. So
respect is huge. And it doesn't really even matter if you agree with them. It's about,
right.
Do I want you to call me Mrs. Sweeney or Mrs. Millie, or, you know, it's sort of a similar thing, but it's a little deeper, definitely deeper. And so Chia, from your perspective as a young adult, what does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that a lot of trans people, kind of including myself, have a problem with the saying preferred pronouns, because that implies that it's just something that we're choosing, which it's just who we are. There's like a common misconception with trans people that like a trans woman is a man who chose to be a woman, but that's not the case, and science completely backs this. She's just a woman. That's just what it is. So it's not my preferred pronouns, it's just my pronouns, because that's who I am.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely a lot about respect. All young trans people get that people in older generations aren't gonna like get it as easily. But the frustrating thing is when they just completely disregard it instead of trying to hear us out at all. And that's all we want.
Yeah. So it's about respect, and it's about seeing you for who you are. Yeah. And honoring that, you know, for who you are. So we have you know, policies, practices, approaches regarding individuals who identify as LGBTQ plus and with their express pronouns, just their pronouns. I'm going to start doing that. I'm taking away preferred. That's going to be my commitment. They're constantly evolving. And we hear regularly in both our personal and our professional lives sentiments, approaches, and actions that vary widely. They range from affirming and accepting all the way to discriminatory and stigmatizing and hurtful. The way in which we use particular terms can impact everybody differently, depending on what you're going through. So I wanted to ask both of you, you know, what impacts have you seen or experienced based on whether someone respects the pronouns that you said, these are my pronouns, or if they don't respect it and they don't use it, they refuse to use it. And either one of you can start.
Well, Chia, you know, what I've noticed in our extended family here in Austin is the times when it's just been, you know, sometimes, Chia, I think you just get kind of tired of having to remind people. And so there's been instances in family events where they just didn't want us to even use the correct pronouns in front of the rest of the family, because it's just exhausting having to talk about it all the time, or to explain it, or have people push back. So I've seen definitely the negative impact of people just really just not taking a moment to try to do it correctly, and instead just kind of complaining about it. And it feels like it's so impactful when we do get it right, or when we do try. I feel like maybe Chia, you can speak to this too, because this is your experience I'm kind of talking about, but where, you know, those of us who do make an effort and do understand the respect piece, and try to understand the basically the new gender spectrum, the gender spectrum that's been revealed that we were unaware of when we were growing up, you know. And how that is the different, how that affects you, you know, within our own family, just having different people having different reactions to it.
Yeah. And how are you impacted as a parent, you know, seeing what your child is going through? You know, when someone respects who they are and who they say that this is me, and when they don't, what have you seen?
Yeah, well, you know, of course I get super protective, right? It's like, I want to go in there and really try to help people understand and kind of push them past their comfort zones to say, look, this is just something that you didn't learn growing up, and none of us did. And here is, you know, we need to listen to the young people and learn from the young people. And, you know, set aside your ego, set aside your idea that you know what's right, and look at something from a different perspective and just try to see whether you can understand it. I think every generation, or, you know, all the different age groups, there's always struggles within the generations, of understanding between the generations. And this is one of the big ones that my generation gets to try to open our minds to, right? So I feel very protective, and I want to go fight the battles, you know, as an ally too, right? Of course, I want to see how I can help explain it to people so that they'll maybe decide to be respectful.
Absolutely. So Chia, how about you? What impacts have you experienced or seen when people respect that and they don't, or if they don't respect it and don't use it?
Yeah, so what my mom was saying about like our family members, I'm very like, I pick and choose who I even take the time to explain my pronouns to, because it's honestly more emotionally draining to tell somebody and them not get it and never use it than to not have told them and they just don't know, so they still use she, her for me. Like that is less painful, because this option it feels like personally attacking, or yeah, it's just personally disrespectful, but they don't even grasp like the weight of how disrespectful it feels. So a bunch of family members I haven't told. A lot of people I just like have it in my Instagram bio, so I'm like, maybe they'll see it, I don't know. But I even have friends my age who, like cis friends, who don't get it right all the time. But it's really just about, if you mess up, if you misgender somebody, correct yourself in that moment, just like as easy as, oh, they were saying blah, blah, blah. That's like the best. About it, if you remember, just to correct yourself. But yeah, I was really lucky to get to go to Mount Holyoke College, which is one of the historically women's colleges. But Mount Holyoke accepts anybody except cis men. So it was like a super gay, super trans community. We all like say our pronouns at the beginning of all our classes. Like when we're getting to know each other, the teachers have their pronouns and their emails, everything. Very awesome. Great place to like build well, first of all, just like figure out how you identify, because you're in a supporting community, but also like build the confidence to feel secure in that, and then go to the outside world where that is not the case. So I definitely, like, in communities like that, I just feel safer and more at ease all the time. And yeah, it's like you don't hear people use pronouns as much as you hear your name used, I feel like. So sometimes I just am like talking with people and then they say, oh, they did this, and I'm like, oh, it's just a nice little, like, I forgot that I used those pronouns and they used them. That's so nice. And then I just am like a little bit happy for the rest of the video. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I want to ask you about something that you said about how hurtful it can be to be misgendered, because I don't know that we do understand that, or that everyone understands that. I mean, I've had conversations with my own child because I didn't understand it first, but now I'm starting, I get it. That's not seeing them and respecting who they are, and that's all they want. They just want to be themselves.
Yeah.
Not, like you said, not this exhausted talking about it all the time and reminding people, just be me. But what can you explain a little bit for everybody who's here, what the weight of that is, of feeling misgendered, and how that's connected if people ignore what you've asked?
Yeah, so definitely with like family or friends or just people that are close to you who you feel like see you as a person, and then you come out as trans or whatever it is, and they don't understand it. It's like, what do you mean you see me as a woman? Like, I've never been that. And that makes it just like rocks your world in a bad way, because you're like, oh, this person who I thought really saw me for everything, like, doesn't get this. And it's not, I don't know, it's not anybody's fault necessarily. It's how we were raised and indoctrinated and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's just like really emotionally hard to go through that, and then still like remind yourself that this is not something that's taught or has like really ever been taught until very recently. It's easy when you're not in the situation to be like logical about it, but in that moment you're like so emotional and upset, so it's so much harder when they have like a reaction that's like they laugh at you, or they're like, that's stupid, or whatever it is. And then,
or it's a phase.
Yeah. I've never gotten that, which is good, but
I've heard that it's a phase. It's not a phase. It's
I don't even really understand what that means.
Get that. Thank you for explaining that, because I don't know really that people understand. It does hurt.
Yeah.
It does hurt.
And I don't know like a lot of science stuff, so I wouldn't be able to explain the science behind transness well, but that's literally something that anybody can just look up. Like, biology completely backs it that I have the brain of not a woman, but I have a vulva, and that's how it works. Yeah.
Yes, I have a family member who said it's like, I'm in a female body, but I have a male brain. Yeah. And that's, and I've never heard them say that way before, but now it just, we all learn. We know better, we do better. And so just kind of staying with the same thing, when someone tries and they respect it, like especially in school, or, like you said, the teachers, when you went to college, they identified, what their pronouns were, asked you what yours are. How does that impact you as someone going through it, and as their parent? How does that change the way you interact with them, or how you view them, your relationship, when they do respect it and they try?
Yeah, it definitely gives me the ability to just naturally feel way like I could be closer with them, or just like it's a mutually respectful relationship, and it's not like this big thing that I'm either hiding from them, or I'm gonna have to like keep explaining all the time to them, because it shouldn't be something that I keep having to do labor to receive, like respect. It should just be, I tell you, and then you go with it. Yeah.
Respect it. And Ginger, what have you seen when others do respect that and they try, and how have you seen that impact how well, she is doing, or how their day goes?
Well, it's such a, there's such a softening that happens when you feel safe. And I think that's what I've witnessed, is that I think, I've watched in circumstances where somebody is just easily just takes on the pronouns and uses them correctly and doesn't blink and just keeps going and maybe makes a mistake, but then corrects it. And I think what I've seen is just, I feel like it's just a softening. It's like Chia is able to just relax into the space and into the interactions in a way. And I feel like Chia, we had one of those moments where I had an insight that I saw from a television show about that. I think for a parent's brain, where we've raised our children within a binary. And so I had an idea of who Chia was because I was raised in a binary and I raised them in a binary. And then realizing that what we're looking at now is that that I just have to just let go completely of that who I thought they were is not who they are themselves. And just to let go at all of the femaleness or whatever it was that I, that gender that I raised them as, and just to let it go completely. And it was like, oh, that's what we're doing. And Chia, you and I had that moment, I think, when I told you that I had seen that and I had learned, I kind of taken that in, where I felt like you just were like, yeah, mom, yes, you get it. Or you got another piece of it, right?
Yeah.
So but I could just feel that it's not, there's just always going to be a little bit of a guard up when people are just not trying because Chia can't relax fully into that interaction. So
fully be yourself. You have to be what others expected of you. A little bird told me that you had like your own nickname or some with my child. They love to wear hoodies, and so that's when we were trying to get used to using what they had requested of us. We called you're a hoodie, not daughter. And just as a kind of fun sort of thing. Is there anything that happened with you as you were as a parent starting to kind of do that?
Yeah, well, me and Chia's dad used to call them Mija. And then when Chia told me that they identified as non-binary, I just switched it to Mihi, M-I-J-I instead of M-I-J-A. So I don't know, this is a national audience. I think that they're Mija is what in Mexican American communities is what you call your daughters or your nieces or whatever. It means my daughter. And you can call the person, and you can call anybody that. It's kind of like calling somebody honey, but it's a gendered word. And so I just ungendered it and used the word, I just made up the word Mihi, M-I-J-A, M-I-J-I. So it would be Mija for girls, Mijo for boys. And I said Mihi for non-binary folks.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah. Mija is like, has a very sweet, like nostalgic feeling to me, just because it feels like connected to half of my family's culture, and like my grandpa calls me that too, like all my family. So it's not like there's like definitely negative gendered words, and that one doesn't feel so negative because it's overpowered by the cultural aspect of it. But then he is just super cute too. And I like that. I'm not like out to my dad as non-binary, so it's cool when
today, maybe.
Huh?
Maybe after today.
He's not going to be watching this. I mean, I don't care if he does, but I just haven't taken the time to explain.
There is sometimes we have folks that ask questions. Are you comfortable taking a question? I think this one is to Chia. If someone asks you to explain more about being transgender, would that be offensive when they are trying to learn or understand what it means to identify as something outside of what they are accustomed to understanding the binary?
Yeah. I think just something to understand when you're trying to learn from any other people whose like lived experiences you don't understand is you can't just expect free labor from them. You can't even expect paid labor from them, because not everybody wants to go through the emotional labor of explaining their existence to people who don't get it, even if they're getting paid. I'm cool with it right now. So this is the place and time to ask me questions. But there's definitely
a couple more coming.
Yeah, awesome. There's definitely like ways that you can ask and be more respectful. Let me go. Is the question in the chat?
It is. It's from Michelle Cunningham, and then there are two more questions, Chia.
So that's not like this is also, everything I'm saying is my personal experience. Trans people aren't a monolith, but I think that asking to explain more about being transgender is not just like an offensive question inherently. It just depends on who you're talking to, and like if it's your child and you want to understand so you feel like you can respect them, I think that makes sense. But not everybody is just like going to be willing to labor to explain that to you, because Google is free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it depends, right? It's just person specific.
Yeah.
Another question to you: how are you able to cope when people don't use your pronouns? Do you feel that because you wish to be addressed in a certain way that others are obligated to do so? And what are you doing to kind of build your resilience about the outside world, or not to let that get to you?
I think obligated is a strange word, because nobody's obligated to do anything, but if they want to respect me as a person, then they would try. That's what it is. I'm not making anybody do anything. I'm just telling them that this is how you can respect me. It's like when cisgender people change their name, like they want to go by something else, people are like, oh yeah, cool, let's just do that. But because now it's like a gendered thing, not now, but because with trans people it's a gendered thing, or they're saying they want to use different pronouns, then it's this whole hard thing that they've never done before, when that's not the case. But I don't know, it's like doesn't feel good to convince yourself, oh, it's okay that person misgendered me. But trans people do it all the time, especially if it's somebody that should respect your pronouns, or like you've known forever or whatever it is. And if they keep messing up, like it's been months and months. And I've had this experience with friends who we're not like really close now, but we've been friends forever. And I find myself like, trans people will make excuses for other people for why they keep messing it up, or it's like, oh, well, I don't really care that much. But it's not, that's not always true. And I also just want to stop making excuses for people and just be like, that's what the case is. And it does suck, but this is someone I've been friends with forever, so I'm not gonna drop them over that. But some people might not want to be friends with them over that, and that's okay. I think that growing up in a binary, like I've never been blind to how the world sees gender. So it wasn't like I came out or I realized I was non-binary and then I realized that the world doesn't respect that. Like, it's just like that came hand in hand. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to deal with this at the same time as figuring out what my gender is. And I know that there is like, I have an amazing community of queer people everywhere. And that's also not the majority of people in the world. So I don't know. I don't have an answer of how I tolerate it. I just do.
It's sort of related to that. Did you find that leaving your university, where people were generally interested in being explicit with their pronouns and gender expression, was a difficult transition? How would you recommend family and friends support those going through that, going from a high support environment to a relatively lower support environment?
Yeah,
outside of disrespecting pronouns.
This is like completely depends on where you are living after the high support environment. I'm in like a growing city that is relatively big, so just generally there are going to be more queer people and like queer organizations. Or like the other night there was a queer skate night at this roller skating rink. There's just like a bunch of stuff like that in Austin. And I also am friends, like I know some people from high school who were all queer now. So I like can find my community here. I feel comfortable being here now. I was worried about it when I was first leaving Mount Holyoke, mostly because I didn't have, most of my friends from high school had like are in college somewhere else, so they're not in Texas anymore either. And then like the friends I did have here were like cis white people, most of them straight. But I've just been finding new people. Instagram is a very helpful tool in my opinion. Just like I just will like see somebody who's friends with somebody I know and I'll follow them if I think they look cool or something. Family and friends, I think, like help them get access to, like, if there's queer spaces in the city that you're living in or whatever. Those are definitely very helpful. But that could also be really scary depending on where you live, because that could be like a dangerous place to put yourself in.
So it's safe. You need to find the safe spaces as well.
Yeah. And then I'm in the process of finding like a trans therapist right now, but that's definitely something that's really helpful for trans folks. Yeah, just like helping them find spaces, because it's great when cis straight people around you respect your pronouns, and that's awesome, but that is not enough. Like, you need to be with people who also have the same identity and views as you.
Yeah, and similar experiences and similar challenges and similar celebrations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I think that, Ginger, I want to ask you, much in the same way, do you find that you as a parent also need to have a community of parents who experience the same sort of challenges and, fears and successes with their child who is transgender?
Personally, no, I haven't felt like I've needed that. I feel like I don't feel like a lot of challenge, except for just trying to help my child with their challenges. But for me, I haven't felt. I think there's probably different aspects of the whole gender spectrum and gender experiences that I'm that I would probably really enjoy talking to people about, other parents about, but I haven't really felt like I've needed a lot of support with it personally. Because I teach a lot of people that tend to be a little bit younger than me, actually a lot of people that are Chia's age as well. And so I'm kind of immersed with, I've got other young people in my life who whose pronouns are they, them. So I have other opportunities in my life to practice it. And I'm around other people that, the gender spectrum or the new understandings about gender are part of their awareness as well. So I feel like a lot of my time is spent with people who get it and less time with people who don't.
Yeah, that may be why you don't have, that need. I know finding parents has been helpful for me in understanding it, and also finding like resources, where's the best binder, which one's last, and just anything like that, like you would when your child is experiencing mental health challenges. You tend to talk to other parents, and it just you kind of have to build that community as well. I want to ask one more questions in here, because I love that there's someone doing some type of research or something. When filling out surveys, what term do you think would be most respectful? Other, LGBTQ plus, non-binary, or something else?
Yeah, so okay. I think that, are they saying, well, I'm assuming that they're saying like you have 3 options of your gender, and it's like male, female, non-binary, or whatever thing.
Or there may be other options. I mean, what would you suggest?
They raised their hand.
Hi, Chia. It's C. I asked that question. Yesterday we met with our evaluator, and we were trying to figure out, we just put male, female, other. And I was just, thank you so much for educating us. I'm just trying to figure out what would be the most inclusive, non-disrespectful term for that third category, because we don't want to lose people by listing all of the respectful terminologies within the gender diverse community. So what are your thoughts on that to make it more inclusive and not offensive? That's what I meant with that question. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have a perfect answer to this question, because the thing is that there's not just 3 genders. The point of non-binary is to say that we don't believe that there is a binary, meaning just 2 genders, but there's also not just one thing in the middle. My mom said this earlier, the gender spectrum, it's huge and infinite, and you can be anywhere along the line. And this is actually funny, because I just was filling out a form the other day to get a ticket to this like queer run rave, and I was looking at their gender like thing, and it had like 30 options or something, which was, that was really interesting, because a lot of them I didn't understand what the difference of them was, but it was just like it would have trans woman, trans man, trans person, trans female, trans male, and then it would have all of those again as transgender, that, and then like trans asterisks with that, and there was all this stuff, and it was very interesting. But not everybody who is okay, so trans is an umbrella term. There's the binary half of it, or I don't know, binary part of it, which would be like female transitioning to male, male transitioning to female, but they identify as like, they use she, her pronouns or he, him pronouns, not any other kind of pronouns. So that's binary trans. And then there's non-binary trans, which is another umbrella term in itself. So non-binary fits under there, gender fluid, all these different things that all mean different things to whoever identifies that way. So it's not just like there is one term for
Right.
the
Do
other.
Do you think it would be more respectful not to have words, but to have a statement such as I identify as a male, I
Absolutely.
identify as a female, and
If it
then
can
I identify as someone within the gender diverse community? Do you think that would be the best way to do it so it's more descriptive versus labeling?
Yeah, I do like that. I would say I have seen someone put, like, you can write in what your gender is. There's not even a clicking option. It's just completely what you write down. And I feel like that is the most
Okay.
respectful way to do it, but that is also helpful. I'm part of this community.
Okay. Okay.
I like the way that you said that, see. I think that might be a really good way for us to consider.
Yeah, because I was just thinking that if, you know, the whole golden rule concept, if I want someone to respect me for how I identify, whether it be my gender identification, ethnicity, race, religious practices, and so forth and so on, I need to project and give that same respect out. So possibly checking a box that says other with a line would be a good thing, or actually using those three statements. Do you think that would be the most respectful
Yeah,
way to do it?
I liked the statements better. I think that in general, the term other, nobody likes that, whether it's like you're talking about your race or ethnicity or gender or whatever it is, because then you're literally othering people and it's like dehumanizing.
Right.
So I think I liked the phrases you used better than that.
Okay.
But I will say with the survey or the form that I filled out that had all those like 30 or more things, that was like a queer run space. So it was queer people putting that.
Right.
And that was clearly what they all agreed was the most respectful way to go about it.
Okay, I'll propose that when we write our surveys from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
Our evaluator is possibly on the higher end of the age spectrum, I guess is the most popular way to say it. So I'm going to try to advocate for that, so I can advocate for you and other youth who are like you. So thank you so much for educating me on that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That's exactly the purpose of these conversations, and leads us perfectly into, you know, are there other alternative language or descriptions or approaches that you would encourage people to use to support those who are experiencing emotional behavioral challenges, you know, in the LGBTQ plus community, or who are struggling when someone is not recognizing them for who they are? You know, is there anything that either one of you would recommend? I mean, a lot of things already.
Something that I just practice in general, and a lot of other queer people do, like especially at Mount Holyoke, we would do this, is no gender looks like anything, so you can never assume what anybody's gender is. So I generally, and I don't do this perfectly either, because I'll see a frat boy and I'll be like, yeah, I'm sure that he's a cisgender frat boy, but I don't know that, so I should just do it for everybody. But I just use they them pronouns for anyone until I ask what their pronouns are or they tell me. Yeah, because using they them, like it's a non-binary pronoun, but it's also just a gender neutral pronoun. So using that for anybody isn't misgendering them. It's just like not saying the gender, or you just don't know it, or that is their pronouns.
It's a good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be someone being willing to say, kind of open up a conversation even. You know, oh, well, thank you. I actually prefer to go by, you know, she, her.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it can open that up for, you know, and create that kind of comfort and that safeness to be able to say that.
Yeah. And then also so everybody talks about how they them is plural, and that's their excuse for why they don't understand it. But a good little anecdote that anybody can say if somebody's struggling to like learn it is that they is already used as a singular pronoun in English all the time. It is grammatically correct. And an example would be if you just don't know somebody's gender, like somebody is talking about a scientist and they're like, oh, what did they discover? Plain and simple. You already do it without thinking. So it's just doing it to somebody who you think you know what their gender is because you can see them, but that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's what my child told me too.
Yeah.
Ginger, do you have anything that you would recommend?
Well, I don't know if I have anything to recommend. It's more just that really is the one that I hit up against the most with people my age, is basically just a lot of complaining about like, I don't understand, it's not plural. It's like, this is a singular person and it's plural. And that argument doesn't go anywhere. It's such a circular argument. And even with the linguistic, I've used this linguistic example like Chia just shared as well. And it's still, they're just like, yeah. They just don't get it. And it's like, I just think sometimes I just have to say, you just have to let it go and just decide that you don't understand it. It doesn't sound good in your brain and you still have to do it. Just decide to do it. Decide to do the right thing that people are asking you to do. And it's, that's where you have to, it's like, apparently that's not going to make sense to you. You don't want it to make sense, or you're just hitting up against something and maybe not even trying to make them wrong either, but just like, yeah, right. Like you just have to do it, or maybe not you just have to do it, but please just do it until it, fake it till you make it, whatever, right? Just do it. Just give it a try. It's not going to kill you. Just, I really think people hit up against like what's right. They just said, but that's not right. It's not correct. It's not grammatically correct, or, the wrong scientific arguments, or, religious arguments or whatever about why the whole thing doesn't make any sense. And it's like, just, we have to, we all have to evolve,
Yes. Yes.
And I definitely prefer evolving with my child as opposed to not evolving as they grow and become more and more of an amazing person. So I'd rather evolve with them and let them lead the way. Like it's really wonderful to get to listen to Chia talk today and just be so like, I'm so proud of them, just so proud. So just really beautiful. I'm happy to have them lead the way. I did not expect to cry.
Well, it has been wonderful talking with both of you. And I really think that you've been heard too. And the whole idea is to impact, the way that we use language and being respectful to each other, starting with the language that we use. And I think that some people have learned so many things today. So I want to thank you both for sharing your experience and your expertise with us. And I also, before we go, something we always do in this series, let's think about those initial perceptions and the word cloud that we did, and the thoughts that people had. And now I want everybody to consider, what you've heard and what you've learned today, talking with Ginger and Chia. And we're going to do another quick Menti. I know we're just a few minutes left here, but there will be a link put in the chat. What are some of the things that you're committed to doing within your role, who you are, to impact how, pronouns are used or encouraged. So use that link and please add that in there. And again, the code is 5909754 if you go to menti.com. Give a second for people to put that in. I know we're going to run over just a minute, but this is important. practice using they, them as a rule. I can say one thing I'm committed to is I'm going to remove preferred from preferred pronouns. That just is, you know, it's your pronouns, and that just really struck a chord with me. Thank you for doing that, Chia.
Awesome.
Just do the right thing, keep doing it, keep correcting people. It's important to be patient, advocate, educate myself, educate others, live by example. I mean, we model things every day. Don't assume that you know someone's pronouns. Be more cognizant, correctly use names until you can wrap your vocabulary to form properly. Use as needed, encourage others to do the same. Ditto to the eliminating preferred or chosen. I tell someone my pronouns when I introduce them. I always try to make sure when I'm on Zoom, if it's not on there, I put it on there. Normalize through practice, be more respectful, lead by example. All of these are fantastic. Golden rule, yep, do unto others, right? Thank you everyone for participating in that. Definitely, you know, I feel like there's been some ideas that are shared today that we can carry forward. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and we hope that you'll join us next month when we're going to look at the term resilience and have some young adults and some parents talk with us about that. And in closing, we challenge you to be intentional in using terms that are more supportive and respectful of the youth and family experience and expertise. So thank you again, and remember that words do matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.